What's up, Fumble fam? I'm Brooke.
And I'm Noelle, and you're listening to Girls Don't Fumble, the #1 sports podcast for NFL Girl Talk.
We sift through all the football news so you don't have to.
Let's get into it.
Welcome back, Fumblers. We are so excited to be talking to you guys this week. How are we already on week 8 of football? I feel like it just started yesterday. Like we were waiting for it all summer long, upset, desperate, sad, desolate, no football in sight. And now we're already halfway through the season.
Yeah.
Riddle me that.
I can't riddle anything to you at this moment. It's a little late, but also, yes, time has just been flying by. I feel like I've been locked in a room and then I just walked out and then all of a sudden now it's week 8.
Now it's week 8.
How does that happen?
And, you know, with week 8 has come a lot of turmoil in the NFL. Everybody's injured. The teams are being ran through. The men are ending up in the hospital. They're ending up on IR. And we just needed to do a quick roundup of how many men have made their way on and now off the field. And it's been ugly out there. The sport is unforgiving. People say the NFL is unsafe. They say that, well, a lot, you know, it's actually, you got half and half. Our country's divided, and so are what people say about the NFL. Half the people are like, they keep making all these rules that makes the sport too soft. We want to see these crazy tackles. We want a hip drop. We want to sack the quarterback and not get calls for it. Then other people are like, if you don't change the rules now and give everyone a guardian cap, like everyone in the NFL is going to have CTE by the time they're 45. Right. So there's some conflicting voices. Either way, a lot of men have ended up injured. So what we wanted to chat about today was just who of the teams in the NFL have been the most unlucky when it comes to injuries. Injuries are completely unavoidable when it comes to the NFL. You're guaranteed to have to deal with a few, but which teams have been dealing with them the worst? And let's talk about it. Let's get into it. We have 4 teams that have made it into our top 4 most unlucky teams, the most banged up, battered, and injured men.
They're weak.
They're weak. I mean, it's kind of embarrassing if you end up on our list today. So that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah.
Noelle, do you want to kick us off?
I'll kick us off. And I will say this team in particular has been unlucky since week 1 of the season. And I'm looking at all of you fantasy managers out there who drafted CMC first.
Wah, wah.
The 49ers have just been on a streak of unluckiness forever since the season has started. And we see that all kind of come to fruition even more after this game against the Chiefs. This was one of the most sought after. A lot of people thought that this would be one of the most viewed games of the season because, of course, we talked about this on our last episode, but this was a rematch of the Super Bowl from last football season, but of this year in 2024. But after this week, there has been a ton of injuries outside of CMC, who we don't think will be returning back onto the field until after their bye week, which is, I believe, week 9. So we have a few more weeks that'll put us to November. But let's kick things off because there's about 4 or 5 that are at the top of our list. And let's just say almost every single person that catches a ball is currently injured on injured reserve in the hospital. The list goes on. So let's start off. Brandon Ayuk suffers a season-ending knee injury in this game. And it's unfortunate because, as we all know, Brandon Ayuk was one of the wide receivers who was holding out during the summer. In order for him to get paid. He did eventually get paid, and that was for $120 million. So a lot of people were expecting him to be producing a lot this season. And starting week 1, we just saw that he wasn't as strong as some of his previous seasons. And in this game, unfortunately, it kind of all comes to an end because we hear from Kyle Shanahan today that he suffered an ACL and an MCL injury in his right knee, and he will need surgery on this. Unfortunate.
At least he got paid $120 million. He can afford surgery.
He's going to be sitting from his couch watching the games. He's chilling.
Chilling. I mean, that one's... Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll say more later.
I was going to say, I feel like you're either you drafted first in your fantasy leagues and you have been suffering from the beginning of your star player, CMC, being out, announced 30 minutes before kickoff, which was crazy. And I'm in the other camp. I didn't get to pick first, but I did scoop up Brandon Ayuk thinking, he hasn't played all summer, but he's an amazing wide receiver. He's going to get it together. He's going to warm up. I'm going to continue starting him. I'm going to take those 5-point games. And what has he done for us? He's lost it all.
Yeah.
Not to make this about us, but as the fans, it's kind of who football's about. I am sorry to Brandon Ayuk that this happened to him. That must suck so much to have such a stressful summer of, knowing you're kind of coming back to the 49ers, but not really able to be comfortable until you get that contract signed. And then by the time you get back, you're really out of shape. You're not doing well. There's so much pressure on him after he got that huge contract. And now it's just like, all right, well, you're going to get some more time to sit out and ponder your thoughts this summer because you will be out. You will be just, recovering from that injury as quick as he can. But what a bummer of a season for the receivers of the 49ers.
Yeah. And I mean, to top things off, as we talked about with the contract, I feel like this is probably worst case scenario for you after you get paid and are coming into a revised contract year and people are expecting you to play really well. Meanwhile, you get a season-ending injury and you can't play for the rest of the season. Looking at his stats, he's ending this season with no touchdowns, 25 catches, and 374 yards. So not the best way to put an end to this season. So we do, our prayers go out to Brandon. Injuries are never fun. And especially with all of these protocols that I feel like the NFL is doing right now in an effort to keep players safe. For whatever reason, it feels like there's more injuries this year.
It's not working.
I'm not seeing the vision quite yet. Maybe the numbers reflect differently, but like from an outside perspective, looking in at all the injuries, it just seems like, I don't know if there's been that much of them improvements, and maybe there is in some aspects versus others.
It doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't.
The only thing I was going to say too about Brandon Ayuk, devil's advocate, thank God he fought for that contract extension, because could you imagine if he was coming up on an expired contract, was heading into free agency next year after this bummer of a season and an injury, he definitely wouldn't have been getting $120 million. That's for sure.
Totally.
So be a diva. Get your contract signed while you're healthy. That's what I've learned.
I'm a
diva down.
Yeah, diva down. Yeah, no, he played it right. And I mean, it's crazy to think that he was almost going to be signing with the Steelers too, because those rumors were going around. But happy that he stayed with the faithful fam, or with the faithful. Faithful?
Yeah.
Faithful gang?
The faithful gang.
Yes. But outside of Brandon Ayuk's injury, well, last thing I'll say about this is Kyle Shanahan made a few comments. He said that he spoke to Brandon Ayuk on the phone after the game on Sunday, and he says that he's really bummed, but Brandon Ayuk is a very spiritual person, and he believes that everything happens for a reason. Oh, so nice. He is sad, but of course in good spirits and optimistic for the future. Obviously, he has that contract to give him some security heading into the next season, which is always great. So good for Brandon Ayuk on that piece. But looking outside of Brandon Ayuk, not only did we have that big injury, but we have other people like Deebo Samuel, who is randomly out, and it sounds like he was diagnosed with pneumonia.
What?
And so he didn't play at all. In this past game.
It's not the time to get pneumonia.
Yeah, like please, like eat your vitamin C, like take your supplements, wash your hands.
Wash your hands. Stop being dirty, Deebo Samuel. Like half the team is out and you're thinking this is the time to come down with pneumonia.
Yeah. Can you just don't go outside?
No,
don't be outside.
Lock
Stay
yourself up, mask up, gloves on.
Yes.
Just report for duty.
Yeah. Just pretend like it's COVID all of a sudden and just
right?
Shelter in place.
This is like not a very, I don't fully agree with this, but I feel like we see so many players battle through really severe injuries and illnesses to play.
Yeah.
Obviously, I don't think you're allowed to play if you have COVID, but I don't know if it's the same rules for an illness like pneumonia. Not to say pneumonia is no big deal. Obviously, it's like in your lungs and like probably not great.
Yeah.
I'm just curious how sick he was. I'm guessing if he was able to play, he would have, but
yeah. I know there's always that speculation of like, how bad is this injury? And of course, you'll always see the players like come to Twitter and be like, why do you think I'm faking this?
Yeah.
You know?
Because you don't want to play.
Yeah.
Because none of your other guys are playing. And the 49ers
your boys
are
aren't
cursed
on the
this
field
season.
with you. What are you going to do?
He's like, I don't have any reason to be out there. And
Yeah.
Brock Purdy's like, what the fuck? Like, someone needs to catch these passes.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's not faking it, but it's always fun to speculate. Like, people play with like broken ribs and broken fingers. And there was that receiver episode where Amon-Ra St. Brown was playing with, is it foot and mouth disease? Is that something?
Yeah, foot mouth.
Foot mouth is like something babies get. He had that and had like, he was like, it felt like I was walking on like needles and razors, and he still played a whole game.
That is insane.
That's my standard.
Yeah.
That is my golden standard for
How committed are you to this game?
Yeah. And it's like, Devo, if you just have a light cough, take some cough suppressants.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like we'd go to work with pneumonia. No.
Speak for yourself. I basically do right now. My cough is crazy. I might have pneumonia
You
right
have
now.
pneumonia
I
in the
do.
studio.
And I have been going to work, guys, in case you were wondering.
So she's really dedicated.
And it was funny because we got out of a meeting last week, and one of my coworkers, I had a cough after we got to our desk, and she said, maybe you should go home. I was like, yeah, I am. Literally left within 2 minutes of her saying that.
Oh, you shouldn't have. All right.
Yeah.
Don't mind if I do.
Yeah. Peace. Bye.
I should go home. Okay.
In that moment, it was her saying like, I don't feel comfortable with you coughing around me. And I was like, say less. Like, I will be out of here. Just close your eyes, snap your fingers, and I'm out.
That's all I needed to hear. I'm sorry I ever even came in today.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe I should stay out the rest of the week because my cough is still here.
Perfect.
Outside of Deebo Samuel, we also have wide receiver Chris Conley. I am with a high ankle sprain, is day to day. And then, of course, we have George Kittle, who has a foot sprain and is also day to day. I would imagine that of the two, maybe one of them will be back. Who knows? Mm-hmm. We also have people like Juwan Jennings, who had a really great start to the season and hasn't been doing so much since, but he did have a hip injury earlier this season, and now he may be back this week, maybe not. Still a little questionable, but we'll keep our eyes on the injury report. So just a lot. And then, of course, we can't forget Christian McCaffrey. There is just a ton going on there.
That is so unfortunate, especially coming off of the 49ers. Just really, I mean, they made it to the Super Bowl, but still a heartbreaking end to the season of having done so well, only to come up short against the Chiefs in a Super Bowl again.
Right.
And I think that they came into this season with so much energy and so much excitement and just thinking like, this has to be our season. Like, we are not going to lose to the Chiefs in a Super Bowl again. We deserve that victory. What comes to mind is just those awful videos after the Super Bowl of all the 49ers players sitting on the field, the confetti just coming on like their faces. Oh my God. What I said coming on their faces, it reminded me of that TikTok sound. I was like, I guess it's too easy to say stuff like that.
No, I guess so. Yeah, they're just like us.
They're just like us. Honestly, understandable. But the confetti was raining down on the players.
Yeah.
And they look really sad. And it's like, that's what I'm kind of feeling in my heart for them right now is that there were really high expectations, rightfully so, heading into the season. And they have been just decimated with injuries.
Yeah.
And pray for my fantasy team. Pray for your fantasy team. I also got George Kittle in there. He's been the only tight end who's actually been doing anything this season. So he better step up.
You better step up. I believe in him. And I'm sure, I feel like of all people, I feel like there's George Kittle will be one of those guys that plays with like any kind of foot sprain. He's like, oh, I'm fine.
He's so tough. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that they're just like putting that out in the world to like scare us a little bit more, to create more drama. But like, he'll be out there in the next game. He'll be fine.
Do we know who the Niners are playing in week 8?
Cowboys.
Ooh, okay. Well, that's kind of I mean, it depends what type of Cowboys they get. You know, it could be a really easy defeat, or if they get beat by the Cowboys, it's like, ugh.
Yeah.
I mean, the Cowboys need to win this game if they want to stop embarrassing themselves.
Yeah.
But I'm cheering for the 49ers.
Yeah, the Niners are currently 3-4 in their division. They're in third place. The Seahawks and the Cardinals are first and second. So they can just...
Are the Cardinals second? Oh, maybe now they are.
They have the same record, but the Cardinals, since they just beat them.
Got it. Wait.
No, sorry, that's the Rams. But they are 3-4.
Yeah, the Cardinals are 4-3, I think.
Oh,
Just because they just played the
I
Chargers
know they have
last
the
night.
same record. It's either 3-4 or 4-3, one of the two. But
Either way, more disappointing than we expected them to be at
Yeah.
this time of the season.
yeah, it's unfortunate, but there is some positive to come out of this game. There are a lot of memes that have come out this week, knowing that the 49ers are just so riddled with injuries at this moment. Right now, their shining star and their most healthy receiver is currently Ricky Pearsall, who, if you guys don't know, was just drafted to the 49ers, was a rookie this season. He got shot in the chest this summer.
Oh, I shouldn't laugh.
He got just shot in the chest this summer. He was at a birthday party or some kind of gathering, and he was the victim of an armed robbery and got shot in the freaking chest. He has been doing rehab for the first 6 weeks of his rookie season, been doing rehab. He's been saying that he's been kind of like working through a lot of the scar tissue, as one has when you get shot in the chest.
Gosh.
And then once he kind of got through the pain tolerance, it got manageable. And, I think like he was working on his mobility skills a little bit. Then he started practicing. He goes on the field because the team just has tons of injuries. And by the last quarter of the game, with I think 1 minute and 32 seconds left, Ricky Pearsall comes in. The crowd's cheering.
Oh.
His teammates are dabbing him up. And he said that it was just a moment that he'll never forget. And I'm just so happy that the fans, even though they were suffering such like a bad loss, not to say it was a bad game or anything, it was a little ugly, but to see that they're still supporting their players like that is awesome.
That's really sweet. I love that so much. I mean, the memes have been insane where it's like the 49ers healthiest wide receiver is someone who got shot in the chest 7 weeks ago.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm sorry. Wait, what?
Did I read
With
that right?
talented group? Like Christian McCaffrey is coming in after the guy who got shot in the chest. Like what's going on?
It's wild.
I love how excited the fans got. I mean, not that it's like worth it to get shot, but just thinking about like, it's really the best of a bad situation.
Totally.
I would never wish that on somebody, but obviously considering he's safe and he's alive and he's made a full recovery.
He survived.
He's a survivor and now he's a hero.
Yes.
So it's like, that's kind of nice.
Oh, that's the best. I'm
It's
so
like-
happy that he got that, honestly.
It's reminding me of like, it feels like something that like Michael Scott in The Office would want to do.
Yeah.
Of like kind of like get shot, but he's like a hero. Like I could see like this being an Office episode where he's like on the sidelines and sees like all the crowd cheering for Ricky Pearsall. Like it's like Jim Halpert or something or Dwight. And then it's like he wants to go like fake getting shot. I feel like it's an episode of The Office that writes itself.
Okay.
But I'm so happy for Ricky Pearsall's survival and return.
Yeah.
And I really hope that he has a successful season. That's so funny that he came in at the last minute when they were already going to lose. And that really does show the fan base of the 49ers that they're still able to be like, wait, this is a really exciting moment. We've been waiting for our rookie who got shot all season long. Put him in, coach. And he caught a ball, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I think he had, let's see, hold on. It was 3 catches for 21 yards.
Oh my God, king energy.
We love it. And he also, there was a quote online when he was getting interviewed saying that he's really close with Brandon Ayuk. And he was just saying like, I know that Brandon Ayuk, he's going through a lot right now, but him being off the field made more opportunities for me too. So he's seeing the bright side of this. Obviously it worked out for him.
Well, damn.
And he said, I just try to make the most of my opportunities.
Left his friend in the dust.
He said, bye.
He said, that's
Thank
my
you.
guy, but if I get to play, stay out all you want. Go suffer those season-ending injuries. This is my time to shine. Okay, Ricky, not a true friend, but he's having a good attitude.
Yeah.
That is so funny. You got to laugh it off if you're getting shot before the NFL season and coming back.
And coming back within the same season.
I love that.
We love
Except for the fact that he got shot. That's very sad and scary. And
But
I'm so
he's
glad
a
okay.
survivor, and we're so happy for him. I've
Ricky
also been
Pearsall
seeing
fan.
a lot of videos of 49er fans on the field or at games, and He's almost eye candy like Nick Bosa. I wouldn't put him in the same category, but a lot of girlies are loving him right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
And now he's like a rugged bad boy with like a bullet
shot in the
wound.
chest?
You think he's got like a scar?
Oh,
like
yeah.
where the bullet entered?
Yeah.
That's a fun
That's
little.
hot.
I wonder if he's single.
Yeah.
Not for
giving-
us.
it's giving,
but
like,
should we look it
con.
up?
Like,
Ricky Pearsall
I feel like he has a
relationship.
girlfriend.
I kind of think he does too.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Much respect to the girlfriend.
Yes. Tori Moraga.
We're just fans.
We love you, Queen.
We love you.
Oh my God, she was a cheerleader for the Florida Gators. Okay, it's giving hot.
Love.
Wait, they're really cute together.
Oh.
Oh, we should feature her as a wag.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. She's beautiful.
Just please forget that we were hitting on your man.
Yeah.
You
we're
can-
just appreciating the
Yeah. Sure, she
attractive
loves it.
level.
They're a really hot couple.
They're so cute.
Oh my
I
gosh.
love them.
I'm bet she's so happy that he's back in the NFL.
So although we think the Niners are one of the unlucky teams, there are some bright spots.
Ricky Pearsall and Tori Moraga. We love you guys.
We love you guys.
New it couple of the NFL.
Yes. Opportunities coming left and right.
Absolutely. Okay.
Yes.
Getting into our next unlucky team. This team, I would say their curse started in week 2. They had 1 week where it's like, hey, this might look good. Week 2, immediate bad. I'm talking about the Miami Dolphins. And of course, what happened week 2 is quarterback Tua Tagovailoa goes down towards the end of the game, or maybe it's half, whatever, it doesn't matter, with another concussion. This is at least his 4th concussion in the last few years and has sparked such a big conversation in the NFL around concussion protocol and safety of the players, and a lot of conversation around should Tua retire. He's a father. He has a family. He is so young. He shouldn't have to potentially put the rest of his life in danger to play football.
Yeah.
However, he got the concussion. He was placed on injured reserve by the Dolphins. Mike McDaniel did not want to make any comments about whether or not he was coming back, any timing of it all. I do really respect that because he's like, that is completely his decision. I'm not going to sit here and speculate on it. I'm not trying to make headlines or make anyone think something's going to happen one way or another. So the Dolphins have been really great, I think, about how they've handled him being out. I mean, I really feel for Tua, just outside of how much that sucks to have to deal with these repetitive injuries to his head and something that's so scary, and just the long-term impact is just unknown at this point of what he's going to be facing, you know, when he comes out of football, and any sort of injuries with your brain are just so scary. But at the same time, he's such a good quarterback. He is, you know, one of the best the Dolphins have ever seen. He's doing so well in his career. And it's just the impossible decision to ask him to give it all away because he's been dealing with these injuries. He's such a competitor. He's wanted this his entire life. His whole life has been leading up to this and been working for this since he was a kid. How is he supposed to just walk away? Even like, obviously a lot of people say it's not worth it, throw in the towel. I don't think anyone else should really have an opinion on this. Obviously, medical professionals, if there is a really serious concern, like you still have concussion, you can't play. But it's like, you don't know what that's like to go through a decision like that. We don't know what that's like to just basically be choosing between these different aspects of your life and have it be made an example of. And a lot of people saying, you know, he should step down and make an example of himself for these younger players, that it's not worth it to suffer these concussions. And he should be the first to say, like, you shouldn't play after this. And it's like, he didn't ask to be made an example for this. He didn't ask for these injuries to happen. He didn't want to be an advocate for this head injury stuff. So I do feel for him in his press conference this past week because he is expected to come back and start week 8. There was a lot of questions about, you know, are you still suffering any symptoms? You know, are you scared of getting concussions in the future? Have the doctors said anything about like whether or not you should play? He is cleared from the NFL to play. He's cleared from the doctors. He's gone through the full concussion protocol. And you can just tell his demeanor in this whole press conference was just like, nope, I'm just going to play smart. I'm, not going to speculate about future concussions. He's kind of dismissive of it. I don't blame him at all because they obviously are attached to the story and want to continue to make headlines and make it a huge story. And these reporters are just looking to get quotes from him about like whether or not he should play. And he's just kind of like, I just want to play football. I'm just happy to be back. I want to shut down this story. I want to go be a competitor. And that's it.
Yeah. I mean, to have people saying that you should be retiring, like when your season or your whole career is like not even halfway through. I know we were talking about this earlier, is like crazy to say. To look yourself in the mirror and say like, I'm going to retire today is tough, especially for people like Tua and for all football players who are in the NFL who work their whole lives to be in this position.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And I'm sure that that's like not easy for them to go through. And not only that, I'm sure it's somewhat of an easy decision at the same time, because they know that this is like, they have one life. This is their one love outside of their families and their children, and like that it's their whole life. And this is how they make a living. So I see why this is a tough situation. I'm like, you know, every time Tua goes on the field, I think everybody who is a fan of the NFL and who's a fan of sports in general is going to like, you know, just wince a little bit and just be a little nervous, because who knows what can happen next if we see another concussion. Like, I can only imagine the headlines now, and it's not going to be a pretty story for him. And like, hopefully that doesn't happen again. But like, if it does, then like, who will he change his mind then? Like, who knows? I honestly don't think Tua will ever decide to retire, at least like at an age as early as as young as he is now, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And like you said, if there is another concussion, and unfortunately it's seeming likely depending on, you know, the rest of the length of his career, just because he is so susceptible to them.
Yeah.
That they are going to make an example of him, whether he likes it or not, of just like, look what could happen. And it's just really sad, because obviously if any football player could choose this, they would choose not to suffer from these concussions. And this is just something that he has to deal with now. I'm sure it's very scary. I'm sure even if it wasn't a hard decision for him, it's probably a very frustrating and still like heartbreaking decision to know that he is like risking his long-term health to continue to play the sport he loves and his passion he's been working for his whole life. Yeah. I just really feel for him. One of his quotes from the press conference were someone asking him about like, you know, if he would consider like giving it up if he got concussed again. And he said, I love this game and I love it to the death of me. That's it. So a lot of people took that little snippet and are now making headlines out of that. Basically people being like, Tua's ready to die for football. It's like, okay, relax. It's figure of speech. The
media.
But in a way, it's kind of like, you know, you see what he's saying. He's basically saying like, I have made my decision not to retire. No further questions.
Yeah.
I think
let's not speak on this.
Yeah. And I think that he has the right to say that. They also asked him whether or not he was going to be wearing a Guardian cap. So those, you know, fluffy protective helmets that like look really ridiculous, but should reduce the risk of him getting a concussion. He said no. They said, why? He just said personal choice. Left it at that.
Love that.
Again, he's just like, I shouldn't have to answer these questions. And again, it's fair. We're all going to be so stressed seeing him come out there this week. They are playing the Cardinals this weekend. So I'd be scared if I was the Cardinals too. I'm like, I don't want to injure him. Sorry, Tua.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, I hope he's okay. And I honestly love that he was just direct and straight to the point. Because I feel like in any other situation, I feel like Tua is like, you know, just like a fun, goofy guy, and he's pretty talkative. But to kind of show his devotion to sports and to the NFL in particular, and just being like very matter of fact, like, I'm ready to go out on that field and play some ball. Hopefully, like, no one will ask any other questions until further notice, of course.
Until what if, God forbid, something else happens. But I feel like it was his only option. If he came out there wishy-washy being like, I know it was a tough decision. Like, this could be really bad. I am really scared about a future concussion. quarterback can't go out like that.
Yeah.
And he can't go out like that either. It's like that would definitely get the media swirling of like, Tua doesn't want to be out there. They're pressuring him. Like it would be a whole mess. So this was his only move. He handled it as best he could.
Yeah.
And honestly, he's coming back at the right time. Speaking of other crazy just injuries with the Dolphins, they were on their 4th string quarterback as of last week. So it hasn't been pretty. They started Skylar Thompson, who took over right after Tua was injured and placed on IR. He had to leave week 3, which was the week after he took over due to a rib injury. After that, Tyler Huntley took over, but had to be taken out this past week due to a shoulder injury. And along comes Tim Boyle, QB number 4. They signed him onto the squad the day before and said, "Hey, look, you're the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins.
Jeez.
Go get him, Tiger." So, I think we've seen it with like Tyreek Hill's production. It has been just absolutely awful compared to what his potential is, just not having a quarterback capable of throwing to him and what Tua is capable of doing. So I'm sure the team is going to be so happy to see him back, and we're all just going to be watching on the edge of our seats, making sure that he's okay.
Yes, and we're going to be cheering for the Dolphins and especially for Tua because we've always been a fan of him. But also love that he's ready to get back out there. Give a little shocker to the camera.
A little shocker. A little shocker to the camera. Another very high profile athlete has found themselves injured on the Dolphins. We are talking about wide receiver, punt returner Braxton Berrios. So this past weekend, he left the game with a knee injury. It was confirmed on Monday that he tore his ACL and therefore will be out for the season. It's just, you got to love Braxton Berrios. What the bigger story for us was of course the Alex Earl reaction and just how sweet she is and how devoted she is to supporting him. He had posted on his story or his feed, just basically a caption of how it's so incredibly heartbreaking that his season's over. He's worked so hard, but God has a plan. These setbacks, he'll come back stronger. He's dealt with injury before. He's had some hamstring issues kind of repeatedly in the past. And Alex Earl quoted it on her story and said, "It's crazy how things can change in a matter of seconds, especially seeing how hard you work or how much hard work you put into the game, not only physically, but mentally. Day in and day out, you inspire me, and I have no doubt that you will be back and better in no time. Aww. Proud to be by your side and cheer you on. I love you." I was like, Alex Earl's such a sweet girlfriend.
Oh, the biggest cheerleader there is. And I did see that she was up in New York at an event, and she kind of left early. And this is also coming off of like a crazy weekend. She was at the Eras Tour. Then she went to 3 Points, which is a festival, and she was out at like Space until 10 a.m. She flew to New York. She was there for an event, and then she gets a call that Berrios is hurt. She does the event. She flies back the same day, and then she takes him to the hospital. It's crazy. That girl has infinite energy, but
she does it all.
She does. And prayers to Braxton.
Yeah, prayers to Braxton. The interesting thing for him too is that after this season, his contract's over. So he's going to be a free agent heading into the next season. And it's maybe thought that he will not be with the Dolphins next season. So obviously curious to see from an NFL perspective where he ends up, but also from a him and Alex perspective, because, she lives in Miami and it was just worked out so well that when they were, kind of newer in their relationship, he was able to get that contract with the Dolphins and stay in Miami. So I wonder what the future holds for them and where he's going to go and if she'd move with him.
Theory.
Yeah.
So I think Alex Earl just signed, she's going to get an apartment here in LA.
Okay, that makes sense.
And so what if, he's talking to he's talking to Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Or maybe he's talking to Sean McVay.
Oh my, not Sean.
I could see a year contract at the Rams or the Chargers.
That would be so hot, and I hope it's the Chargers.
Yeah.
Because Lord knows we need a man with hands on the field. And I would love to see Alex Earl at the games.
Yeah,
she would look
so
cute. The Chargers uniforms, she would look stunning.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. That's my theory.
I love that theory, and I'm co-signing it. And we'd love to see Braxton in LA.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if she's going to be here full time. There was some speculation that she might like split her time in Miami and in LA. Kind of like, I guess there's some influencers that like just have a place here. So because they travel here so much. So we'll see.
Okay. It's giving rich. It's giving fun influencer. Like, okay.
Wish I could have 2 places. East and West Coast.
Let me just be bi-coastal and just have a place in LA because I'm sick of going to hotels. Couldn't be us. But, you know, we're keeping these 2 in our thoughts and keeping the Dolphins in our thoughts. They also had their cornerback Storm Duck, who left the game early. He had an ankle injury and was ruled out for the rest of the game. So add him to the list of injured Dolphins players. Of course, the biggest story is Tua here, but since he's coming back, there is a possibility the Dolphins could turn around their season after being able to do nothing without him. So thoughts and prayers.
We'll see.
Yeah.
We're excited. Shall we get into our next one?
Our next unlucky team.
Our next unlucky team is unlucky because they played the Bengals last week.
Oh, yeah.
And the Bengals defeat them.
Yeah, they did.
No, this win meant a lot to Bengals fans, but I'm talking about the Cleveland Browns. They have had quite a few years of just unluckiness, and unfortunately, the unluckiness will continue because their starting quarterback, Deshaun Watson, has officially been ruled out for the season. He suffered a MCL. He hurt his MCL during the Bengals game, and it was literally like a no contact injury. He literally took a step back and was about to throw the ball and pass the ball. And I don't know if you guys have seen this video online, but his whole like ankle and like, oh my gosh, where his Achilles is, just it looks like it like pops.
Ugh,
it just completely
horrible
pops.
to watch.
Yeah. And then I see like a zoom in slow motion of it, and it makes it even worse. And I'm like, I just absolutely cannot right now. But this injury is a little complex because Deshaun Watson has had quite a few allegations against him.
Sure has.
He's been on the Browns since 2022. And around that time, I think that right now he has 20 settlements and is in active civil litigation because of sexual assault at massage parlors. And this is with over 24 women. So it's not just one person thinking that like, oh, I'm going to get my claim to fame and get my bag from an NFL player. Mm-hmm. No, this is multiple accounts of women kind of like in this similar scenario at a massage parlor. So unfortunately for Deshaun, or actually unfortunately for Browns fans, this is your starting quarterback that you have to root for on your team. And this has been going on for the past few years. And even more unfortunate is his contract is up in either not for another 2 to 3 years.
Yeah, that's
and it's a whopping, I think like $230 million over 5 years. So I think he's on his like maybe second or third year of this contract. So there's a lot going on there. And because of all of the allegations, he was suspended back in, I think it was 2022. And he's just been in and out of games. Last year in 2023, he had a shoulder injury. He was out for a few weeks. He went back in the game, and then he eventually left the game with a fracture in his shoulder or somewhere in his arm. He kind of like re-aggravated his shoulder injury, and then he was out for the rest of the season. So the Browns have also suffered just like this rotation, this just ever-present rotation of quarterbacks with Deshaun just being so up and down and just always like there's always something going on with him. So he's been a tough one. And I know that a lot of Browns fans are not happy about this when with him just being quarterback in general. When this injury occurred, there were cheers in the stadium. Which is so sad, but like also knowing his background, like we understand and like,
oh yeah,
he kind of deserves that. Mm-hmm. But it's very interesting because the head coach just does not want to sit him even through all of his ups and downs. The Browns are currently 1-6. They can't catch a break. They have a lot of really strong players. Nick Chubb just came back for this Bengals game. but they just can't quite get it together. And by the end of the Bengals-Browns game, I believe they were on their QB4 as well, QB3 or QB4. And the guy who came in, they actually put him on like an inactive list for this game, but then they had to reactivate him for the end of the game to close it out because
the panic.
There were obviously Deshaun went out with an injury. Their backup had like a finger or some kind of hand injury, so he eventually was out, and he didn't play very well. He had like 2 interceptions. So in comes QB3, who is on an inactive list. It is a shitstorm.
Yeah.
In Cleveland.
I do feel really bad for Browns fans. Just like, I don't know, especially like as a woman, like how are you supposed to cheer for your quarterback just knowing what he's done? Like it's so gross. It's so icky. The dude's just a creep.
Yeah.
I wonder, this would be interesting, and I don't know, considering it's such a male-dominated sport, but just like the image of teams, imagine a world where, you know how like in any sort of player contract, I think they have like injury contingencies and stuff. What if they put an assault contingency, basically saying if you are charged with XYZ, your contract is null and void? Because the fact that it's been such a disaster from he's bad at football perspective, but also just like is not a good person perspective. Why do they have to suffer for another 2 years?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's terrible.
They have so much money tied up in him. The NFL should be like, look, this is not good for our brand. This is not good for this fan base. Let's bring someone else in and just kind of like, you know, let you guys forgive you of that cap space and just send Deshaun Watson on his merry way. All, you know, not that funny, but all the memes too that came about after he was injured of just him showing up to more massage parlors and feeling like my like MCL's in my dick. Like, it's not funny, but it's really funny.
Oh my gosh, that'd be terrible.
Yeah, so
that man needs to be 86 from all massage parlors ever.
He's on the loose though, and he needs a massage. It's not good.
I would hate to be that next person who does his massage.
Massage therapists hate to see him.
Maybe a man would do it.
I don't think so.
You don't think?
I mean, maybe to take one for the ladies. Yeah. But I feel men don't like to be massaged by other men.
Yeah.
They're homophobic in that way.
That's true. We know a few of those.
We sure do.
Yeah. I mean, so we were in Cleveland a few weeks ago, and we were talking to our Uber driver, and he was just saying the same stuff. Like, Browns fans are so fed up, and it is unfortunate because Cleveland is a really cool city, and like that town is just completely run by sports.
Yeah.
And so to have kind of like that duality of people who are completely booing him, which is kind of like an unspoken rule of football. When there's an injury, like you're not supposed to cheer. Yeah. Yet the entire stadium is cheering for him. Meanwhile, you have people on the field like his teammates who are there for him and who are consoling him. And there's videos of him on the cart leaving the field and he's crying. Like, obviously he's down bad, but it just comes to show, I mean, this is obviously very complex, but this is why I believe that the Browns are really one of those unlucky teams, and they will be for a while. I believe Myles Garrett was one of the players who went on Twitter and was talking about how he literally says, quote, like model citizen that Deshaun Watson is. And he's been a model citizen throughout college and in the pros. And he basically does everything right. And I'm paraphrasing it. It's not word for word, but he does say model citizen when speaking for Deshaun Watson, which is crazy. And then you have the reality of like who he is as a person. Yeah. And I get it. Like, you need to rally around your teammates, and maybe this is for press. Maybe Myles Garrett doesn't actually like the guy. Who knows? We'll never know. But
that's insane.
It's a tough situation.
That is so messy for Myles Garrett. Like, if genuinely you want to defend your friend and you see all the hate he's getting and you feel bad for him, I feel like you can say it in other ways of like, I don't know, point out some other good qualities, but to say model citizen when there are 24 women who have assault allegation cases against him, it's not exactly a model citizen in my eyes. Yeah. And it's just like, maybe just stay out of this one, Myles Garrett. I feel like he's a messy one on social media, which normally I stand for.
No, he is. He is.
Kind of love it, but not this.
The Bengals played the Browns on Halloween a few years ago, and like he decorated his house, and there was like a graveyard with all of the quarterbacks that he was like gonna play that season.
Scary.
And Joe Burrow was like, he took a picture of that because he was playing them that night, and the Browns actually won that game.
Damn it.
But this was a big game for the Bengals and for the Browns, unfortunately.
Congrats to the Bengals.
Congrats to the Bengals. Something else that came out of this, the Browns also signed Bailey Zapp, who was a former Patriot. Right now he's on the practice squad for the Chiefs. Mm-hmm. We don't know who they're going to start in this upcoming game, but we'll see. Obviously, this is like a little bit of a gamble of their quarterback rotation. There's about 2 to 3 guys who are currently injured, so it's really going to be up to either Bailey Zapp or the guy who is on the inactive squad, who is Jameis Winston. Okay. Seems like they don't have a lot of faith in him, so we'll see. But more to come on that.
Yikes. Well, we'll stay tuned for more. Shall we go into our final unlucky team?
Yes.
So I'll try to go through this fast. I know we're over the time that we wanted to allot for this episode. Shocker. So this fourth and final unlucky team, people were calling them Super Bowl contenders after week 2, just based on their absolutely stellar performance. People were writing checks for this team. They said, this is our year. And they have since gone on a 5-game losing streak from a 2-0 record to 2-5. I'm talking about the New Orleans Saints. And you really hate to see it. It was a really exciting start that they had, especially with their offense of scoring. I think it was 90 points in the first 2 games of the season, which is so much fun to watch. You love watching really explosive offenses, but unfortunately they have been decimated just an unprecedented amount by injuries. Like everyone is injured. It's so sad. So of the 22 starters of the Saints, 11 of them have missed at least 1 full game this season. Half of those players are on the offense. They're completely gutted when it comes to their O-line and their wide receiver room. Like they have nobody to block. They have nobody to catch the ball. And 4 players since the season has started have been placed on IR. Jeez, so they are not doing well in the slightest. This feels like I don't know. They are cursed. And it's so sad because the beginning of the season was such a different story. Like, take me back to week 2 if I'm a Saints fan. And I want to remember those times forever. So, of course, one of the highest profile injuries is, of course, their quarterback, Derek Carr, who suffered an oblique injury during the Chiefs game in week 5. He has missed the last 2 games against the Bucs and the Broncos. And he is now, I think, coming back to practice. So people are saying he's either going to come back this weekend, which is unfortunately against the Chargers, which I hope that he just wants to rest for another week and then come back even stronger week 9. Like, doesn't that sound nice? Yeah. So he'll probably be back in the next week or 2. However, his O-linemen have been absolutely just like taken out. I think I saw some crazy headline where they're on their 11th O-lineman just because their starters have gotten injured, their backups have gotten injured. Some good news, hopefully, is that their 2 veteran O-linemen, including their center, Eric McCoy, and their guard, Cesar Ruiz, are thought to be returning in the next few weeks as well. So I think, you kind of coordinate their return with the Derek Carr return and you bring that unit back together. If I'm Derek Carr, I'm not returning without them. Like, you guys are going to let me get injured again. I don't want to be. Like, bring me my guys back, especially with the center, just knowing that relationship there. So we could potentially, maybe see a little bit of a turnaround for the Saints. However, they just haven't been holding it together anywhere else. You're saying, okay, Derek Carr's coming back, the O-line's coming back, the rest of the team is falling apart. So the wide receivers, we first had Rashid Shaheed getting injured during the Bucs game. He had a knee injury and he is out for the season. Yeah. He was also doing really well in fantasy, so that kind of sucks. And their other wide receiver, Chris Olave, was placed on the concussion protocol after getting a concussion against the Buccaneers as well. So both wide receivers just out foul swoop in the Bucs game. Chris Olave did miss the Denver game the following week because he still had concussion symptoms, which is really scary. Thinking like a week later, you're still suffering from those symptoms. And he too, in addition or similar to Tua, has a history of concussions. He's had 2 in the last few years. So it's really scary for those guys that you see, like, it just comes back. Like, you're prone to them, and it's something you always have to be scared of.
Oh, 100%.
So they, in addition to those 2 wide receivers, they also lost both of their starting quarterbacks during the Thursday night game against the Broncos. So also now we're talking about the defensive side of the ball. Those 2 cornerbacks are out. CB Paulson Adebo, I don't know how to pronounce that, was carted off the field in the second quarter of the Broncos game and taken directly to the hospital. It turns out he has broken his femur.
Oh my god.
So he's not coming back either.
Yeah.
So you're already dealing, your quarterback's out, your O-linemen are out, your 2 wide receivers are out, and now it's like, at least we have our defense. No, wrong. He's in the hospital and he has a broken femur. Their other cornerback, Marshawn Lattimore, also left with a hamstring injury. We have another offensive lineman who was, I don't believe he was a starter, but he's filling in. He left with a shoulder injury.
The list goes on.
It does not end. Like, I don't even have everyone here. This is just the more recent ones. Everyone is gone. The Saints need to just call it a season.
Yeah.
I don't, the curse is crazy.
Yeah.
In my mind, they are the most unlucky team right now because they are just, it's multiple alignment, multiple wide receivers, multiple cornerbacks. It's their star, Derek Carr. And like, they were doing so well.
They were doing so well. If I'm a Saints fan, I'm going back to those first 2 weeks where you're riding that high.
Yeah.
Your team has scored almost 100 points in just 2 weeks of football. You're thinking we have the whole season to just really tear other teams to complete shreds.
Yep.
We know that the Super Bowl is going to be in New Orleans next year. So they're like, could this be a home game for us? We'll see. But then you are riddled with all these injuries, and it's unfortunate. And like, obviously we'll be able to see exactly how they'll adjust. They haven't quite yet because they have 5 losses in a row. But after this week, I feel like that the list of injuries has there's only been more. So I'm really curious how this next game is going to kind of play out for them. We're excited for a Derek Carr return. Of course, for everybody else who's on that list, there's a lot.
Excited for you all to return as well.
Yes, excited for everybody to return, but that's a bummer. I mean, like you said, I think of all of the list of injuries, the Saints was definitely top of the list. Outside of the 49ers, I think like they have a little bit more of the stars. They're in the press a little bit more, but the Saints, like, the list goes on. In terms of volume, it's the highest.
The volume is the highest. When I went to their website to get their injury report, I had to scroll. Like, it wasn't just like, okay, here's the screenshot on the page. Let me read through all the guys. I had to scroll to get to the bottom of that list. And that is sad.
You have to like press next to go to the next page.
Yeah, I'm like, still, this is all for week 8. I'm like, yes, they're playing the Chargers, but they're probably going to have miracle comebacks just given the Chargers luck. So you're welcome, Saints fans. But
don't say that yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
You guys are still injured. But there you have it. Again, another long episode that we meant to be a short episode, but we know how much you guys love listening to us, right?
Yeah.
Haha.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Woo! Girls don't fumble. So we're excited to see what happens in week 8. Hopefully, knock on wood, no more extreme injuries, no more broken bones, no more injured reserve, no more concussions. Keep these men wrapped in bubble wrap.
Keep these men healthy.
Keep our boys safe.
Shelter in place.
Shelter in place. All right, fumblers, we love ya. We'll see you next time.
Later.
Bye.